I am the person that will review your report and say, okay, it's a vulnerability or it's not. And by looking to all the reports we have received in the last 3 years, most of them doesn't attack production servers. They attack developers.
Hi, and welcome to PodRocket, a web development podcast brought to you by LogRocket. I'm Paige Niedringhaus, and today we have Rafael Gonzaga, Node.js TSC member, here to talk about Node 24. In this episode, Rafael and I talk about all the highlights of what's new in Node version 24, how Node's upgraded V8 engine is dramatically improving app performance, and the inspiration that Node's taking from its competitors to give devs more of what they want. So here's our episode with Rafael Gonzaga. Hi, and welcome to PodRocket, a web development podcast brought to you by LogRocket. LogRocket provides AI-first session replay and analytics, which surface the UX and technical issues impacting user experiences. Start understanding where your users are struggling by trying it for free at logrocket.com. Hey everyone, I am Paige Niedringhaus, your host, and today we have Rafael Gonzaga, a Node.js TSC member, here to talk about Node 24. Welcome to the podcast, Rafael.
Hello. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Well, we are happy to have you, and we're going to talk about Node 24, which has just entered the current release as the newest, latest, and greatest. So for people who are not as familiar with Node's release schedule, can you talk a little bit about, what Node 24 is, how you guys do releases, what the basics are?
Node.js, the Node.js team, the Node.js release team, we normally ship two major versions of Node.js per year. One will be promoted to LTS after 6 months, and one will be end of life after 6 months. The reason we do that is to facilitate the development, because we can ship several major pull requests into the main branch, and it don't need to wait a year or 2 years to get out. So people can test it, and the recommendation, as most people normally do nowadays, is to use the LTS versions only.
So Node 24 is the new one, but Node 18 is actually going into end of life. So do you think that this will help get teams to start updating sooner than usual, or will people still hold back on the LTS only adoption?
Node.js 18 is end of life, but we have Node.js 20 and Node.js 22 as LTS active. Node.js 2020 is on maintenance mode, but is still an LTS version. It receives secret patches. It just don't receive features anymore. So my recommendation is to go to Node.js 22. We wrote a package called Is My Node Vulnerable? Because one thing we learned is that people are using a lot of end-of-life versions of Node.js. Despite Node.js 16 being end-of-life for 2 years, people are still using that a lot, to be honest. It's almost the same. We look at the download graphs, and almost the same as Node.js 20. Because people just don't care about it, but they don't know that they are completely insecure. So my recommendation is, if you want to know if you are using an insecure version of Node.js, run npx is my node vulnerable, and it will tell you, it will display a prompt telling which version you should use, or if you are good.
I mean, it probably is almost always going to say you're vulnerable if it's an older version,
most
right?
of the time.
So probably just update if you have been behind by a version or two.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about some of the new updates to Node 24, some of the big exciting ones. So one of the ones that you mentioned in the changelog notes is that V8 is going to version 13.6, which gives us features like regex, escape, and error is error. So these are not necessarily APIs that developers may be as familiar with, but can you tell us a little bit about what kind of features they offer, as well as if there's a kind of a shift more towards more safety rails and precision tools in the Node ecosystem?
Okay. With this version of V8, other features appeared in the JavaScript development. We have regex escape, we have error is error. Basically, these changes reflect a broader trend toward enhancing code safety and clarity in JavaScript. And despite that, we have also included, actually, with this V8 update, we have also included explicit resource management, which is a very, very cool feature, but no one talks about that. But they might be talking about it when Node.js 24 goes LTS. It's very cool, and I hope people use it more often.
Can you tell us a little bit more about it so people will know what's good about it?
Yeah, definitely. One thing that people usually do is imagine you have a handler, you do a try catch, and then you have a finally after that. Usually, the finally is to clean up the resource. So if I open a file, I will clean up in the finally. Regardless if that fails or it goes in the success, I need to close that file. However, I normally do try, catch, finally. And with this explicit resource management, you don't need to close it anymore. When that object goes out of scope, the resources are automatically cleaned up. The thing is, the feature needs to implement that. And Node.js, the test runner, already implements it. So it's a cool feature, and we need to chat more about that.
Nice. So it's just a little bit of garbage collection that the developers don't have to think about.
Yeah, kind of, yes.
That's awesome. So another thing that is new about this particular version is that URL pattern is now global. Could you tell us a little bit more about what this means for developers and like how they can take advantage of it?
So the Node.js already used that the URL pattern that we have exposed globally. The difference is that it was only to internal usage of Node.js. So if you use HTTP, we are using a URL pattern. The only change we did here is to make it globally available. So it simplifies the usage. It making it more foundational tool for routing in modern applications. I mean, I don't expect people to use it very often, but behind frameworks, like if you use Express or if you use Fastify, they might be using it in a near future. So you possibly won't touch it directly, but it's a nice to have.
Okay, so it's more like a thing that the framework authors will be able to take advantage of.
Yeah, correct.
Cool. Okay, cool. So another thing is Unidici 7 ships in this release, and this is Node's HTTP client kind of getting more beefy, I guess, or more powerful.
Yeah.
Do you think that we are approaching a point where third-party applications or libraries like Axios might not really be needed anymore?
Yes, definitely. I mean, with the fetch adoption, fetch is also one of the features that Unidici ships. So if you are concerned about cross platform support, like if you want your code to run in Node.js in the backend and also in the front end, Node.js supports most of the features. So if you use fetch, you can also use fetch on Node.js. So you can definitely replace Axios. But however, Axios remains popular due to its broader browser compatibility and more familiar API. People are used to use Axios, and it's fine. The one thing important to mention here is that people think they want a more more compatibility, but they also wonder why this feature is not so fast as it should be. The reason usually is that we follow specifications, right? When you follow specification, you can't deviate from that. Otherwise, you won't be browser compatible. So it makes the performance of a specific feature too restrict. For instance, fetch is fast is okay. I wouldn't call it fast, but if you want a more faster approach to make requests, Undici also ships a request module for that. So if you want to send a lot of requests faster, you use that feature. you can't complain that fetch is not faster because we are just following the spec. If you want something faster, just use something more specific to Node.js.
Got it. That's great advice. So NPM 11 is landing with this release. Did anything about NPM jump out as a kind of quality of life improvement for developer workflows?
If I remember correctly, NPM 11 introduced faster installs, some security checks, and the dash dash ignore script now applies to all lifecycle scripts, but it shouldn't impact developers' life. It's more about developers maintain NPM developers maintenance. So they have introduced some breaking changes, but it's unlikely to affect developers, Node.js developers. So it's just a regular release as we do normally with Node.js.
What does the dash dash ignore script do?
Well, when you install a package, some package contains some hooks, which is, for instance, post install script. And normally those, and this is considered for some people a security vulnerability, because imagine I'm installing Fastify, and Fastify contains a post install script that would hook or insert some malicious code in my machine. That could happen. So when you use the dash dash ignore script, you make sure that those scripts will not be executed, but it doesn't mean you are safe. Okay, so make sure that you are installing the correct package, because that happens a lot. And that also happens to npx. So when you use npx, for instance, npx is my node vulnerable, the npx will download that package and install it in your machine and run it automatically. So even though the package will show you the expected result, it doesn't mean it didn't affect your machine. So that's why I wrote one package called npx-safe that makes use of the Node.js permission model to guarantee that that code won't touch in your file system. At least it won't be able to read or write to your disk.
Oh, that's interesting. That seems like that should be more talked about in general.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of that before. Cool. All right. So the async local storage update feels like something that is kind of a big deal, but really isn't discussed as much. So could you talk a little bit about how that changes things for developers and what they can expect from it?
Okay, this feature was basically, if you are using Node.js 22, you can also use that feature, but passing a flag, dash dash experimental async context frame. I know that it's a long name, but you can make use of that. And the reason we did that is that async hooks is a powerful tool for Node.js, especially if you are working with APMs for diagnostic. If you want to diagnose your code, you might be using async hooks. However, async hooks receives a lot of data, and it's not so it's heavy. When you enable async hooks, your code reduce the performance because it processes many chunks of data. Because every time you create a promise, every time you fire a promise, async hooks will get that, and you process that. A lot of things in background. And this change is basically, let's not use async hooks for async local storage, which is one of the most powerful feature for APM. When you receive a request, you have a server, you receive a request, and then you have some steps. You go to the database, you return back to the user, and then you want to trace that piece of code. You normally use some APM tool for that. That APM tool will make use of async local storage to make the context of your request globally, so they can store a request ID, the headers of your request, the response, and everything like that. And they make use of that. However, previous that request, it was very not very slow, but it was compromising our performance, right? And with this change, we don't make use of async hooks anymore. We make use directly of async context frame. That is way light for it is way cheaper than using async hooks. It's kind of using bazooka for killing something very small, you know. So now it makes more sense and it's faster. So it will be a good adoption, good addition to the APM vendors.
Nice. Do you have any particular APMs that you would recommend or that you like using particularly?
I work for Node Source. We are an APM, and we do it by instead of injecting code in your application, we do all of that in the C++ level, in the binary level. So it's way cheaper. So if you go to the Node Source benchmarks, we'll see that using Node Source and not using APM, we have almost the same performance. So I can't advise for anything else than Node Source. Yeah.
That's fair enough. All right. So another one of the new features or additions is that the permission model is getting more full featured. Now it is -- permission instead of experimental. So is this a sign that Node is kind of getting ready to go more head to head with Dino in terms of a security first design?
Yeah. When I wrote this feature, the permission model, I gave a talk and people were, okay, you are doing that because Dino did that, right? I was, no, but initially, the idea of the permission model was created way before or a few months before Dino has been released. So it's something that we have discussed, but the adoption of Dino was also a plus sign for us. Okay, people might want that, so let's do it.
Yeah.
And with the I'm now sponsored by the Alpha Omega project from OpenJS Foundation to work full time on the Node.js security. And I thought, why not implementing the permission model? Because by looking to the HackerOne reports, for instance, you are using Node.js or you are a security researcher, you found a vulnerability in Node.js, you report to HackerOne, and I am the person that will review your report and say, okay, it's a vulnerability or it's not. And by looking to all the reports we have received in the last 3 years, most of them doesn't attack production servers. They attack developers. And developers are the ones more susceptible to, okay, I want to solve a problem. I go to a handle tutorial on YouTube. They tell me to install this magic package, and this magic package will solve all my problems. And I thought, well, that's not right? If you use the permission model and you install a malicious package and you use that malicious package, the permission model will guarantee that your file system, the module, the malicious module, won't be able to read and write to your disk at least, and expose process and many other features. This week I have created 2 more requests to enhance this feature to also deny access to the network. So yeah, we are growing a lot with that. But security is not something that people love most, right? I don't see a developer, oh, I want to be the most secure developer of the world. No, we want to make it easy to use, and the only way to do that is by receiving feedbacks. We have promoted the permission model to the stable version, but we still need to get feedback from the community. But yeah, it's growing.
So if somebody is using a package that might be trying to do something malicious under the hood and your permission model detects it, does it let the developer know so that they can hopefully remove that code or that, bad
Yes.
actor?
Yes, definitely. You can audit all the permission model errors. And for instance, when you try to read a file and you are not doing it synchronously, you are using the callbacks. In the callback, you receive the error. The error will tell the information. If you use the asynchronous approach, it will crash your application immediately and tell the developer, okay, this module or this line of code tried to access this piece of resource and it's denied because you didn't allow this module to have this access. So it's more granular and you can test it. Yeah.
Cool. So what's something new in Node 24 in your opinion that maybe people aren't talking about as much, but they should know about that's, really going to have a big impact long term?
This is a good question because what people don't know is that server major release usually are the most boring release of any package because we don't ship features in a server major release usually. We ship breaking
Mhm.
changes, right? Most of the features, performance improvements, bug fixes, new features, they go to a server minor release. So it's very likely that you feel more happy with the changes of Node.js 22.15 than Node.js 24 because it's just
Mhm.
breaking changes. But one thing that I would love to see more people talking about is the explicit resource management, the try catch finally that I've mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's great.
So if you were building a new project right now, would you start with Node 24 or would you wait for it to get to LTS in 6 months?
If it's me, possibly I'll be building Node.js from source and using the latest version of Node.js because if I break something, I can fix it as soon as possible. But
Mhm.
if you are doing production code in your company, please don't use Node.js 24 yet. If you want uh, to to create something reliable, use Node.js 22. Node.js 24 is still like prone to some bugs until it
Mhm.
goes LTS. But yeah, as a developer, use Node.js 24. As a tech lead, use Node.js 22. Okay.
Yeah, that's great advice. So, how would you say that the Node ecosystem is evolving with the competitors that are out there, like Dino and Bun and some of the edge native environments? Like, are you taking inspiration from them, or are you really trying to chart your own path and like add new features that seem specific to Node?
Okay, I will speak. This is my personal view. I'm not representing the project here, but I feel that we have Node.js before the runtimes, the new runtimes, and we have Node.js after the runtimes. We are not looking to how Dino or Ban does things. Uh, the only thing we learned from this new competition is that people want things easier to do. Like in the past, we were more conservative with including new features to Node.js because we thought, okay, if someone wants to build SQLite driver, they need to install a package for that, and that's why npm exists. Node.js should be as small as possible, just the runtime. After
Mhm.
Dino and Ban appeared with these features built in, we thought, okay, maybe, uh, although we still believe that Node.js should be small, that's not the vision of Node.js developers. They want something easier. They want something just use Node.js and that will work. And
Yeah.
then we started including new features built into Node.js.
Hmm.
And also good to see the usage, for instance, with the permission model of Dino. They have enabled it by default because they wrote the runtime from scratch. So it's way easier than introducing it as a major breaking change in Node.js.
Hmm.
But we see a lot of developers using allow-all, which is, I would just deny the permission model. Doesn't make sense. So for us, it doesn't make sense to enable the permission model by default. If
Yeah.
someone wants to have a more secure environment, they should ask for that. They should they should use that flag. Otherwise, we
Hmm.
leave as is. Um, and it's also good to see the bond performance improvements because we see, okay, people are looking forward to more performance or a faster startup times because of X or Y. And then okay, let's investigate, let's work on that. We basically are using the feedbacks from other runtimes to improve Node.js, but it doesn't mean Node.js are looking how other runtimes are doing to copy and paste. You know.
Sure. Yeah. So, do you think that Node is doubling down on the stability, or is it maybe becoming more experimental, just putting it behind flags but letting people go a little bit further than they could before?
Yeah, or Node.js contains many release lines, and it's impossible for us to introduce a lot of breaking changes because we will make a huge damage in the community. Node.js is known to be consistent. If you are using an LTS version, it's unlikely that you receive your application will crash after 3 months, right? So uh, all the new experiments, new features we do is behind the flag. It should be opt-in. And then
Mhm.
once it's stabilized, once people are using that and getting feedback and sending feedback to us, we say, okay, let's enable it by default. That's how it happened to the async local storage feature we have mentioned. So
Mhm.
Node.js has its focus on stability, but it doesn't mean we are not looking forward to new features, new improvements,
Yeah.
experiments.
So it just depends a lot on the community feedback and how the developers tell you they like or don't like particular new features.
Yeah, Node.js is run by volunteers, right? Most, if not all, developers are they are volunteering the project. So, if my company needs to have a faster async local storage and they sponsor me to do that, I will do it. But we don't have a roadmap. We don't have a PM telling us, okay, this month everybody will work on the HTTP side of Node.js. No, people normally work on the features they are using or the company they use are asking
Mhm.
them to do that. So yeah, usually it's more a feeling driven development.
Nice. All right, so let's head into the quick round and we're going to do some rapid fire questions, which will be great for social media. So, what is the most underrated feature in Node 24?
Hard to say. I would say the permission model because I want the one that wrote it that wrote it. So I want you to test.
That's a great answer. What is the feature that you're most excited to try out personally?
I will try to implement to make sure that some features of Node.js implements the explicit resource management by default, but it's still something that I need to investigate.
Yeah. Would you trust Node's permission model in production?
Yes, definitely. I mean, uh, you should do that. That's why we make it stable. I hope that it won't break you, but if it breaks, ping me on Twitter, whatever you want. I am happy to solve it.
Perfect. What is your biggest hesitation about upgrading to Node 24?
I believe that compatibility issues with existing dependencies, I mean, breaking changes might affect old package that doesn't update very often. So I don't have hesitation, but I will make sure to run the full test suite in my application with Node.js 24 and have a good coverage of tests before moving on.
Fair. And what is one thing that you wish Node had included in this release?
I'll talk more about process here. Uh, Node.js ships, as I said, 2 releases per year. So we have Node.js 24 in 2026, 2025, and Node.js 25 in 2025. And then I wish we could introduce a new policy that will do 1 release per year. So Node.js 26 will be Node.js in 2026. So we will stick to the same date. That's the only thing I wish.
Keep it nice and simple.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Raphael, it has been great having you on the show today. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want people to be aware of about Node 24?
Well, I'm doing live streams on Twitch every Friday, teaching
Hmm.
people how to contribute to Node.js Core. So my intention is not to monetize that by any means. I just want to get more collaborators to the Node.js code base. So if you want to collaborate in the open source, feel free to join my live stream at 7 p.m. UTC every Friday. and send me a message. Yeah, I'm happy to help you.
Perfect. Well, that's a great segue. Where can people find you online if they want to get in touch and watch your live streams or just be part of the Node community?
On Twitch is Rafael GSS, and on X or GitHub, actually, on GitHub is also Rafael GSS. On X, we have the underscore before because someone stole my name.
Perfect. We'll make sure to have all of those links in the show notes.
Okay.
Well, thank you again for joining us. It's been great having you on PodRocket. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for the invite. Bye bye.